Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'm Esmail Jobran, Director of Sales and Marketing at NGN International. With me today is my colleagues, Mohamed Yaqoob Awadhi, our Chief Executive Officer. Ilya Leonov, our CTO at NGN. Mohamed Abdel Kader from Micro Focus. Anas from Forcepoint. Mohamad Hashem from Kaspersky. Sammy Elyan from Fortinet. Rami Kayyali from The Kernal. And last but not least, Mesut Mert from Veritas. Yes.
Thank you, Ilya.
So thank you, everyone, for joining our session today. Just to give you a little bit of a background, NGN International is a local systems integrator and managed security service provider. During COVID, we've launched a platform called NGN Majlis as a way to connect with the community, discuss trending topics in cybersecurity, and have a form of a panel discussion on the latest technologies and solutions, and at the same time, understand the threat landscape in the region. Today, 4 months ago, we've launched a 4-part series tackling the topic of ransomware. In the first session, we covered the detection and prevention. Then we moved on to prevention measures, and then we went to tackle recovery and response. Today, we will be telling you what the good guys are doing in terms of technologies and controls to help safeguard your organizations from ransomware. We'll start off with a small message from our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Yaqoob Awadhi.
Thank you very much. Thank you for investing time with us today. I probably want to say a few words, and then I will let the rest of the panelists, my colleagues, to talk from their different domains. Firstly, I would like to thank all the companies, our partners who participated and invested in this event. I think they wanted to show support and at the same time talk to our customers about their capabilities. They're first-class companies that work collectively together with us in the region and to support Bahrain. About Majlis, probably what I would like to say is that Majlis started with the main objective that creating awareness in Bahrain. This is a continuous session that we do for our corporate enterprise. We create awareness about the latest technologies. And Majlis is a very unique event where it's moderated by our customers. It's led by the panelists from the customers. So NGN's role is just creating the platform where customers can talk about their pain areas, customers can talk about areas, how they can benefit from or spread the awareness to everybody. Thank you very much. I will leave now the panel and the rest. So thank you very much, Ismail.
Thank you, Yusuf. Thank you so much. So picture this: you wake up one day, you go to the office, trying to access your systems, your data is no longer accessible. Everything has been encrypted. This is a situation that we hope nobody ever has to live through. However, we know that it is inevitable. So today we're hoping to cover or share some insight on what the industry leaders have to offer in terms of security controls, in terms of threat intelligence, and what can be done to tackle the ever-increasing risk of ransomware. So we'll start off with Ilya, if you can just give us briefly a quick introduction in defining the problem. What is ransomware? I'm sure we're all familiar with it, but if you can just define it for us, then we'll move on to Mohammed.
Yeah, sure. So thank you very much. I'm Ilya Leonov, CTO of NGN International. So basically, ransomware is the malicious program, which is the main aim is to, let's say, harm the company's systems or individual systems by encrypting data and asking for basically a ransom. So the problem is that the ransomware attacks becomes more and more cheaper to implement. That's why we see a huge spike, not only in the region, but overall in the world.
Thank you, Ilya. I think what's worth noting here, since we're in Bahrain and our main language is Arabic, in Arabic it's quite powerful term. It's called برنامج الفدية, and it's really quite impactful. And just to give you an inflection of the magnitude of the risk that we are facing. Moving on to you, Mohammed, from Micro Focus, you carry the message of cyber resiliency. So can you please tell us what things that Micro Focus offers in the market in terms of basically covering the whole kill chain?
All right. So first of all, thank you, NGN, for hosting the panel. For Micro Focus, actually, we look at cyber resilience as a whole. But to do cyber resilience, we've decided to invest in 4 key areas of cybersecurity that we believe are not necessarily a silver bullet, but will definitely help you tackle the crown jewels of your enterprise. Now, we obviously work in collaboration with vendors like the panelists we have here to help you guys with the cyber agenda. But to maybe focus on the key components when we discuss ransomware, we basically operate in 2 key areas. One area is the detection aspect of it through security operations, monitoring, and user behavior analytics. The brand name of the product is called ArcSight, and it's basically meant for real-time detection and response when it comes to potential cyber attacks, whether it's ransomware or any other cyber attacks.
Mohammed, you've mentioned a very interesting term. I think that we can even ask the panelists to weigh in here. User behavior analytics. Why is this an important concept? Why are we not talking about the traditional measures where we are following signature-based approach, where we have a database of known threats? And as I said, please, panelists, feel free to weigh in.
So for user behavior analytics, I think it's really important, because when you come to classic security operations centers and monitoring, they're still important. You need to have a look at threats that you know, and to have a real-time visibility, and it is here to stay. The concept of real-time monitoring is here to stay. But the only drawback from real-time monitoring is that it's as good as you configure it to be. So you still need that layer of unknown threat detection. And this only happens with a wider net of capturing through user behavior analytics to identify where are potential anomalies. It might have a higher sense of false positives in the beginning because it's still learning and adapting to your threat landscape and business usage. But it gives you an extra set of eyes that you typically don't have in the real-time correlation. So it's kind of your backup SOC, so to speak. And I think specifically around ransomware, you should be getting very early alerts on user behavior analytics prior to potential attacks on SOC front.
Thank you, Mohammed. Now, when we talk about user behaviors, Forcepoint has an interesting flavor. They started talking about not just data security, but about insider threats. Anas, I would love to hear about your approach to not just ransomware protection, but also to zero trust. This is a popular concept now. How would you formulate it for us?
Yeah, exactly. So first of all, actually, when you start seeing a country like Bahrain moving in an excellent journey when it comes to cloud adoption and digital transformations, and I believe the success that Bahrain did is being replicated in other countries in the region. So you will be more exposed to more threats from everywhere from the world. You will start having more attacks. There will be more smart ways to target your users, to target your customers and services. So that's why looking into threats like ransomwares or any type of further attacks need to be considered and tackled through all the kill chain or the life cycle of that threat. When it comes to understanding before the fact, with the behavioral analytics, with the tools and technologies that can give you more insights of what could be happening before it happens, this will be an interesting part to start with. Looking into insider threats, either the threats are coming either from inside the organizations because of something malicious being implanted somewhere and start moving in lateral movement within the network. The user's behavior themselves, they start changing from time to time. We need to understand that fully to know what could be happening for our services and our users.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, Anas. It doesn't have to be malicious intent. It could also be negligence.
Exactly.
Correct?
So it could be like a broken process. It could be something mistakes our users. Always we are looking to increase the awareness of our users, but mistakes happens. Broken business processes sometimes available on some organizations. So those can lead to threats for those organizations and services, and ultimately can reach where ransomwares will be maybe encrypting data, maybe it could be for other intents where data are gotten stolen. So at Forcepoint, we have technologies that can work on all these areas, from behavioral analytics like insider threat technologies that can understand the behaviors of users, of systems, and start understanding and doing a risk scoring for every element within the network, to looking into the data itself, if there is any maybe malicious movements for data, or there are intents that can impact my data, plus to looking into threats or malwares that can be detected before even it's being passed to those users.
So you're advocating a more proactive approach, and this is where we talk about preventive measures. Thank you, Anas.
Exactly.
Now we'd definitely love to hear from Sammy at Fortinet. So tell us, Sammy, how can we have eyes and ears that help us not just in the detection, but also in the prevention and sometimes even in the cases of response?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for inviting us here. Well, our view at Fortinet, actually, we're trying to tackle some main problems. Let's put things in simple terms. What are the major things we're trying to solve? We'll talk about one major problem: alert fatigue, false positives. False positives translates to alert fatigue. What does that mean? You have tons of solutions, you have tons of technologies, you have tons of events. You're getting more visibility, you're getting data from everywhere, but who's going to tackle all this data? Who have the time to look at all this data and analyze it? That's a big problem. And that's why, like in security operations and managed services, one of the biggest problems is false positives. Statistics actually shows that 50% of the alerts that you get are false positives. So imagine your team is spending 50% of their time on some things that are not real attack. That's a big problem. Also, the redundancy of alerts. This is another major thing. So you get alerts which about the same attack from different solutions. Okay? Now this leads to what? So that's the first problem that we're trying to solve. The second problem is mean time to detect and mean time to respond. So if there is something, I don't want it to stay in the environment for days or months. So if you talk about those two things, those are the main drivers behind two major advances in technology, which is artificial intelligence, machine learning, which is both of the same. Machine learning is part of artificial intelligence. And the other part is automation. Those are the main drivers. False positives, alert fatigue, that's number one. Number two, mean time to detect and mean time to respond. So behind the artificial intelligence, which is like, for example, user behavior analytics, it's part of it. Okay? When you talk about automation, security orchestration, source solutions, automated responses, those are all there to help you actually, and not wasting the time of your people on things that are not real. So when the user behavior analysis, when the EDR came into play, when the deception came into play, what's the main reason for them? They give you low false positives, or what we call in our language, high fidelity alerts. It's all about really orchestrating a good, efficient security operations. Security operations spans a lot of things. It starts before the attack, with the reconnaissance, with the threat intelligence, with the education of the team, okay? With the education of the employees. Then it goes down to the prevention, where you have your perimeter, you have your firewalls, your stuff. Then you go into the detection, where you want to detect things fast enough, and that's where you use machine learning. It's very important, like UBA and many other machine learning things, okay, to find anomalies and to really alert you with a high fidelity incident. From there, you start going into the response. Who's going to do the response? You need orchestration, you need automation to start responding, okay, and to start isolating machines. If you remember, most of the attack can happen on a weekend, before a holiday, before a Christmas, before Eid. Who's going to be there to tackle all those things? It's a major problem. So that's why when we talk about security operations, and by the way, security operations is not technologies. It's mainly a program. It's a program. We'll need people. The most efficient security operations is the ones with a good team. You need to have a very good team, and you need to have a very well-defined processes. That technologies comes as an enabler. Technology will not solve a problem.
Sami,
Now,
you mentioned, sorry to interrupt you, since you're talking about people, I was just having a very interesting conversation with Mohamad from Micro Focus, and you were telling me about artificial intelligence. So now Sami is pitching people, you're telling me about artificial intelligence. How do we bridge the gap, and how does it all fit together?
Actually, the people actually they are the ones who build the right, correct processes to have things efficient. So if you want things orchestrated, done properly, you need people and processes. Those need to be very well trained, because eventually, when you detect something using machine learning or whatever, you need to send it to the right people. You need to have this right process and response, okay? All of those are built by an efficient team. That's why, now, for example, you see many companies that are working in the education of the customers, the employees. You have many, like, look at the SANS, look, all the institution, technical training. The problem that we see in the region is not the technical people don't see many attacks. That's why there are, like, for example, capture the flags, why there are cyber ranges, why you need to focus on the actually the employee factor. The tools are enablers, and there are tons of tools, and they are all efficient. Now, the other thing that everyone should think about now, the trends in security, if you look at Gartner 2021, Gartner 2022, it talks about two major things. It talks about, like, mesh architecture, okay? And it talks about consolidation. Those are important. There was a debate previously about going best of breed or going with vendor consolidation. The consolidation aspect comes where? Because point solutions are built to do perfectly a certain job, okay? It's not built to work with others, okay? So when you build a tool, when you go to point solution, you build a tool to do a specific task.
So Rami, just to sum up here, basically technology is definitely a driving factor, but it comes second to the people and processes. Rami, now, since we're talking about people, how does identity management, going passwordless, because I think it all begins with a password leaked credential, etc. And if we rely on hygiene, it doesn't always pay in our favor. So can you shed some light on that?
Thank you, Ismail. Absolutely. Well, since we're talking about ransomware, can everyone hear me clearly?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, since we're talking about ransomware, the bulk of ransomware is what you hear when you hear some type of infection encrypting your hard drive and encrypting your files and locking you out of access to your data. But at the end of the day, a ransomware attack is essentially a denial of service. I want to prevent you from accessing your information, and I want to charge money to give you back that access. That's the idea. Now, there's a new emerging type of ransomware attacks, which is a cloud-based ransomware attacks, right? Taking over accounts, locking people out of it, and then charging money to gain access back to those attacks. And that's the segment where we are focused. We're focused on preventing account takeovers and account compromises by using better methods of authentication. Currently, most people use passwords to authenticate, and passwords are just a bad idea to log into anywhere because, you know, passwords are generated in someone's brain, passwords are reused, everybody uses, you know, the same password on 30 different services, and they can be stolen in two ends, right? Somebody can steal my password either from me or from the service provider. And this is typically how ransomware, cloud-based ransomware attacks succeed. They find a password somewhere, and they change it and lock you out of the service. The kind of products that we work with are products that focus on eliminating passwords altogether. So imagine having much better security with better user convenience, because one of the reasons passwords are bad is because, well, people find them difficult, right? The average user has about 60 different accounts. People underestimate how many accounts they have until you count them down. And 60 different accounts, no one's going to keep 60 different accounts in their head. You know, no one's going to generate 60 different random secure passwords, keep it in their head. So what's the solution?
Rami, can we actually go passwordless, or is this just something not achievable as an organization?
Well, no, absolutely. This is, there are technologies available today. So for example, the FIDO Alliance has a protocol called the FIDO U2F originally, and now the FIDO 2 protocol. This is part of a web standard called WebAuthn. This is available today on online services, on Microsoft 365, Google, Facebook, Salesforce, Oracle. A lot of cloud-based and web-based services support it. But this is not even just cloud-based. You're able to log in using a hardware token, a little USB hardware token into your Windows device that is connected to your Microsoft 365 account today with no additional software, no additional services. So this technology is available today. It's just a matter of getting it into people's hands and sort of showcasing it, because we're used to believing that if you want to increase security, you also decrease convenience. So users are used to, well, we're adding a new step, we're adding a new thing, and it's going to be really inconvenient. But this new modern technology is available to reduce the friction between users and security. We're able to increase security while at the same time increasing user convenience. Essentially,
this is quite interesting, because usually security, not just security, but zero trust in general, is sometimes perceived as an obstacle to the users. So you're saying that we can actually achieve zero trust, go passwordless, without limiting business operations, without overburdening the users. Thank you, Rami.
Cheers.
Now, we've discussed a lot of things that can be done to detect, prevent, but then there is, at the end, it's still gonna happen, it still might happen, or it has happened. Mesut, when all said and done, when we're hit with ransomware, there's no shame in it, by the way. There is a certain stigma that I, as an organization, have to be ashamed that I have been victim to ransomware, but that's definitely not true. It happens. But what's important is how do we recover? What's from the carnage and the aftermath? Yeah. Tell us more about Veritas' approach to cyber recovery, and why is it important that now we're no longer talking about backup, but secure backup?
Great question, thank you. My name is Mesut, distinguished engineer working in Veritas. So we are trying to address two things here. One thing is how fast you can fully recover from the ransomware attack. We made a survey in 2021 talking to victims, 2,690 IT professionals, executives. Most of them, 66% of them, they spend 6 days or more time fully restoring from the ransomware attack. So how much time you spend and how you can build the ransomware immunity in the environment. So you need to shorten the time, you need to get back to the business as quick as possible. Also, you need to make sure you build the ransomware immunity, your backup is there. So when you need it, and the most modern method. There is a gap actually in the market, like transformation, digital transformation. It brings now, we have AWS data center in Bahrain. We have new workloads. There are some common misconception about new workloads, something SaaS, it covers backup or not. No matter what platform you adopt or how much workloads you have, you need to protect your data with the new method, hybrid or legacy workloads. Probably we can say we are a health organization. We are protecting more than 800 workloads. We support more than 800 workloads, covering end-to-end all the platforms. I hope this is a good summary, but I can say as Veritas, we are helping also data management. Because another problem, other than ransomware, how much we can manage the data. So data management can help contribute security as well. If we know the behavior of the data, we can do anomaly detection in different level, not the network level, not the log level. We can also look at backup level. Backup metadata tells us if there is abnormal activities happening. We can catch anomaly detection. We make sure that even without independent from the signature, without any update, behaviors are telling you proactive notification.
Thank you, Mesut. So just to sum up here, basically what you're saying is that traditionally speaking, backup was viewed as just a duplicate storage in a straightforward sense. However, now it's our last resort. So we want to make sure that we are not backing up infected data. And this is why we need to start talking about data security as part of your backup initiative. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mesut. Now, Ilya, I've seen you work on 3 digital forensic projects related to ransomware. Now, we talked about detection and response, prevention. In terms of response, is it enough just to recover my data, or what do I need to do to make sure that I'm not victim again? In terms of digital forensics, incident response, what are your recommendations in terms of best practices?
Yeah, sure. So since we are providing such services of the detection, response, prevention, and recovery for the past more than actually 5 years in the region, and actually we faced a lot of interesting incidents and forensics investigations after ransomware attacks. And it brings us to the idea, very important idea, which should be discussed, I believe, on the national level or regulatory level, the topic of collective security. So what we see that the companies can avoid ransomware attack before it happened by sharing basically the information from the security tools and controls that they already have and implemented in their on their environment. So it could be on the regulator point or the regulator level. So for example, I see in the audience we have a financial sector, we have oil and gas, we have public companies. So on the national level, so like national CERT, national SOC. So to have some platforms to exchange the information about the threats in order to avoid any potential attacks or ransomware attacks.
And I believe that's the clear message, or one of the main purposes of the National Cybersecurity Center. We do have to upload them for taking a public initiative to harden the cybersecurity, not just within private organizations, but also as within part of the public sector and overall as a culture of security. Thank you, Ilya. Definitely collective security is something that is essential. Sometimes collective security is, again, as Sammy mentioned, is not a technology, but it's also from conversations such as the one that we are having today. We are unfortunately running out of time. Would have loved to spend some more time hearing about the exciting technologies, having more discussions, or even opening the platform for our audience to ask questions. But just to sum up, I'll give each of the panelists a minute to sum up the conversation that we had today, starting with you, Mohamad.
Sure, thank you. So I think in summary, there are technologies to help you obviously detect to start with. There are also technologies for making the data meaningless to the ransomware or any exposure in general. Technology is called data tokenization. I think this is a new concept to many people. I don't want to take more time here because we don't have it, but if you'd like to know more about how to deal with data discovery, protection, and governance, be happy to take you up on NGN and take it forward beyond the session today.
You can find us with the big bold words, the NGN Ransomware Prevention Pavilion. So we'd love to continue this conversation. Anas.
Yes, I want actually to reassure about what is most important about every organization. It's the data. The data is the core. We need to protect that, but we need to adapt as well a technology that can provide a zero trust. It can provide the behavioral analytics for the users. It provides a zero trust for what is entering and what access is going to any system. And at the end, protecting our oil, which is the data. So that is summarizing where we are going and where we are heading, and all the technologies now, everything, all the investments, all the vendors are putting, and all governments are putting these days, it's on that direction.
Thank you so much, Anas. Mesut?
So let's say 1 hour security session. I'll summarize very, very shortly. You need to make sure you protect all workloads. You need to follow the trending best practices, adopting the new way of defending your data. You need to build 3+2+1 gold backup rule, having immutable copy with the compliance clock. And you need to make sure you have zero trust isolated recovery for your critical data. You isolate one copy immutable from your network using latest techniques, including the air gap integration. And you need to make sure built-in security features like host-based intrusion prevention, detection mechanism within backup system. It's defending proactively. There is a file monitoring and lockdown mechanism. Root user cannot delete everything in a second. You make sure your replication doesn't bring your corrupted data to other side. So you need a mechanism. It's not working like traditional way. It's working in an import-export way to make sure this is all happening. My last message, we are providing appliance-based tuned built-in security feature to the market. It comes with the self-assessment. It shows you what is implemented, the checklist, and metering, what's your level of security, and what can be implemented. Even you don't have this, still we can consult you together with NGN. We can do free ransomware scorecard assessment for the backup infrastructure. Just to understand the gap analysis, you can build very healthy roadmap together just to make sure how you can defend your data.
Thank you, Mesut. So basically, in this particular situation, what you don't know doesn't hurt you does not apply. So I would rather identify the weak points that we have within our organization or within our users, focus on them, mitigate them in order to come out of it stronger and more resilient. Thank you. Sammy, wrap it us from your point of view.
Honestly, it's one sentence only. Build an efficient team. If you have an efficient team, you'll have efficient processes, you'll have efficient technologies. Invest in your team. This is very important. I don't see many companies or organizations investing or, in government. You need to invest a lot in your team. When you have the right people, you'll have the right process and the right technology. That's my advice.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Rami.
Cheers. I love that simplification. Build the right team, and you reduce it to one sentence. 100%. Looking to simplify. If you want to simplify this, at the end of the day, there's the bulk of all successful attacks are account compromise, data compromise, right? A breach in credentials or some type of successful ransomware. And if there's one takeaway, at least for me, is try and get rid of passwords wherever you can, back up your files, and check that you're actually backed up the right thing. And essentially, yeah, it's a people industry. So get the right team, simplify your processes, keep an eye on what's happening. It's not that complicated. It just takes a little bit extra to get it right.
Thank you so much, Rami. Thank you. Two of the things that I would like to wrap up with. First of all, thank you all for joining today's session. Now, we've identified, ultimately, we've spoken about a lot of interesting technologies and approaches. But one thing remains as a constant fact. Cybersecurity awareness is an important thing, whether during these sessions or as a continuous program in your organization. Create a culture of cyber hygiene, not just at a technology level or from your security team, but at all levels, whether we're talking about entry-level employees or C-level executives. Make sure that you are always having such conversations in terms of phishing simulations, cybersecurity awareness programs, because that is definitely what adds the most value ultimately. How prepared or how aware are your users? Last but not least, don't shy away from asking for help. Take a consultation, talk to your local partner, have a conversation with your colleague. We have a wonderful community of CISOs here in Bahrain and the region. You have training awarding bodies such as AICS that have active communities in Bahrain. Be active part of this community. Always go there. It definitely pays off to network, but ultimately you will learn something good. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Hope to see you around. Take care.
Thank you.